In 1935, a 5,000-year-old nation assassinated its own mythical identity with a single telegram. They killed Persia to survive the modern world. But changing a name doesn't erase the DNA of a superpower. Let's dissect the architecture of the longest living civilization on Earth. In 1935, a 5,000-year-old nation issued a blunt directive to the Western world. Stop calling us Persia. From now on, use our true name, Iran. If you look at the ancient world, it operates like a graveyard of empires. Civilizations like the Babylonians, the Assyrians, and the Hittites were conquered, absorbed, and eventually disappeared from the map entirely. The Iranian plateau suffered a series of blows that should have been terminal. The Macedonian phalanxes of Alexander the Great marched in. Arab armies swept through under a new religion, and the Mongol hordes of Genghis Khan left behind literal towers of skulls. By the logic of history, this nation should have vanished. It should have dissolved into a genetic and cultural melting pot, leaving behind only ruins and archaeology. Instead, every time a new power occupied the plateau, an inexplicable process took hold. Every empire that marched into this plateau thought they were the conquerors. They didn't realize they were just stepping into an assimilation engine. Within a generation, the invaders dropped their sword, put on Persian silk, and began speaking the language of their captives. The Iranians didn't just survive on the fringes, they remained the dominant cultural force within their own occupation. Within a few decades of a military defeat, the invaders would begin speaking the Persian language, building Persian architecture, and adopting the state bureaucracy of the people they had supposedly conquered. To find the roots of this resilience, we have to look past Mesopotamia to the settlements of the Jiroft culture, which established itself on this land 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. In these mountains, a specific worldview took shape long before the rise of Christianity or Islam, Zoroastrianism. This animation illustrates the religion's most significant impact on human thought. For the ancient world, time moved in a circle, following the seasons. Zoroastrianism declared that time is linear. It has a beginning, a creation, and an inevitable final judgment. Before this, humanity believed time was just a circle, trapping them in endless seasons. This doctrine shattered the loop forever. By drawing a straight line from creation to an ultimate cosmic judgment, they didn't just change religion, they weaponized human purpose. This doctrine framed Iran as a warrior of light against the nomadic darkness of the Eurasian steppes. It gave the various tribes on the plateau a sense of unified purpose that transcended local politics. By 550 BC, Cyrus the Great used that unity to merge the Persians and the Medes, founding the Achaemenid Empire. This data counter shows the resulting scale. At its peak, 50 million people, half the population of the earth at the time, lived under a single Persian administration. While Western history focuses on the Greek defense against this giant, the Persians eventually achieved their goals through finance rather than force. They funded internal Greek conflicts until, by 387 BC, the Greeks were forced to sign a treaty on the Persian king's terms. This combination of a unique religious identity and a vast, sophisticated bureaucracy created a cultural foundation that stayed intact even when the central government failed. When the plateau was finally overrun by foreign armies, the invaders found that military victory did not equal cultural dominance. Instead, a recurring cycle of absorption began. Alexander the Great ruthlessly crushed the Persian army and burned the capital of Persepolis to the ground in 330 BC. Look at the ultimate Greek conqueror. He burned the capital to the ground, yet within months, he's enforcing Persian etiquette on his own generals. He thought he broke the empire. But the Persian cultural gravity is so dense, It swallowed the greatest military mind in history whole. Yet shortly after the conquest, Alexander himself began wearing Persian clothes and enforcing Persian court etiquette. The Greek rulers who followed him were slowly pulled into the Iranian worldview until their own culture was secondary. This graph represents the 7th century collapse of the Sassanid dynasty. The red line traces the state's total fall to the Arab caliphate, which brought a new religion and language. But look at the blue line. While the state fell, Persian language and administrative methods surged, becoming the backbone of the new government. The most violent test arrived in 1220. The Mongols slaughtered entire cities and dismantled the irrigation systems that sustained life on the plateau. The Mongols unleashed an apocalyptic slaughter, turning centuries of infrastructure to ash, expecting the Persian bloodline to expire in dirt. But culture is a virus that doesn't need a host government. A few generations later, Genghis Khan's descendants were building Persian mosques. Within a few generations, however, the descendants of these Mongol conquerors were building grand Persian mosques like this one, funding local poetry and making Farsi the language of their state. Whether the invaders were Greeks, Arabs, or Mongols, the result was the same. The people who took the throne eventually became Persians, governed by Persian rules and shaped by Persian culture. By the early 1900s, the threat was no longer nomadic hordes, but colonial empires. Iran was effectively carved into spheres of influence as Britain and Russia competed for control of the country's oil. The nomadic hordes were replaced by British and Russian boardrooms. The new weapon wasn't the sword, it was the monopoly over black gold. They carved the plateau into spheres of influence, treating a sovereign giant like a raw commodity. But that giant was about to aggressively wake. In response to this colonial pressure, Reza Shah Pahlavi took power in 1925 and began an aggressive program of industrialization to modernize the state. This context explains the 1935 name change. It was a rejection of the romanticized backward image of Persia held by the West. By insisting on the name Iran, the land of the Aryans, the state was signaling its ancient roots and its modern sovereignty. Demanding the world say Iran, the Shah tried to merge a modern industrial state with the ancient mythical bloodline of Aryans. But you cannot engineer national identity in a vacuum. By ignoring deep religious gravity, he set the timer for a devastating revolution. This has created a modern paradox where two identities exist at once. To the outside world, Persia evokes a mythical past of art and grandeur, while Iran is associated with the geopolitical friction of the present. The 1979 Islamic Revolution added another layer to this struggle, replacing the monarchy with a theocratic republic and shifting the country's alignment yet again. Beyond the politics and the names, there is a 5,000-year record of a culture remaining intact while the empires that conquered it dissolved. They have survived by ensuring that eventually their conquerors become them. Kings fall. Borders are violently redrawn. But Iran's cultural core survived 3 millennia of destruction by absorbing its executioners. As the world focuses on political friction, remember, you are watching a civilization that specializes in outliving its enemies. Stay curious.